Welcome aboard, everybody. It's the FTN Network YouTube channel. I'm Michael Govier, and this is the weekly fantasy baseball review show. We look forward to next week, which is week 11. The clock is ticking on this season, isn't it? I mean, man, we've got about a good solid 2 months down right now. It's over. So we have some information that we can build upon, right? And that's what I want you guys to do. Jump in the live chat, ask some questions about your teams, starters for next week, streamers, whatever's on your mind. Take advantage of the live chat here. It's yours. Of course, Hulk smash the like button. I'm sure that's not the first time you've heard that. And of course, might as well subscribe while you're here. I mean, it's the least you can do. You're already here. Come on. That way you get notified whenever I'm live. And this show happens every week, Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And if you don't catch it live, it's always here for you. So you can catch it on Sundays if you're working on your fab bids, any of your waiver wire stuff, any reviews for your coming week in fantasy baseball, because this grind is about to get a whole lot hotter as it heats up in the summertime and balls start flying out whee all over this wonderful country of ours, the United States of America, where MLB resides, and Canada. Don't forget Toronto. They got a pretty good team this year. And since I am married to a Canadian now, I take that a little bit more seriously. So I got a couple of graphics to show you with some two-start streamers today for next week that I like, ones that I've chosen, some hitters to look at, and a secret stash. That's right, I got a secret stash of players that you could add now and hopefully get some solid productivity out of those players maybe in 10 days, maybe a month. Well, less than a month, I would hope, because you don't want to stash too long. If you don't have IL spots, I mean, if you're playing NFBC, no IL spots. But if you're playing Yahoo and you got NA spots and maybe 4 or 5 IL spots, you really have an advantage there where you can maintain players on your roster. But that's not always the case for everybody. And I want you to know I'm aware of that. Again, jump in the live chat if you have any questions. And don't forget that ftnfantasy.com is where I do my weekly free article, Groovin With Govier. And right now, if you signed up right now, you could get access to Vlad Sedler's weekly Trust the Gut Fab article, the definitive piece that is just absolutely crucial for any fantasy baseball manager. You got to have it. Not only does he break down his own fab bid recommendations, but he sets up the schedule. Who's got the best schedules this week? Who's got left-handers versus right-handers? Where the platoons are going to lie? All this stuff is available at ftnfantasy.com. And if you sign up and try it now, use that promo code MJGovier. I'll help you out. Knock some ducats off that overall price. I'm telling you, it's worth it. It truly is. I mean, who cares? Groovin With Govier is free. You can read that every Tuesday. But Vlad's, yeah, that's why he gets paid the big bucks, because that article is so good. I mean, I can't imagine right now trying to lock in and focus in on my season and my week-to-week breakdowns without Trust the Gut from Vlad Sedler. And we might have Vlad on this show soon, too. He talked about, hey, I'll come on and talk about some fab stuff. So next week, we might see him. Stay tuned for that. All right, enough of me yapping. Let's get to the good stuff here. Again, take advantage of the live chat while you can. Let's take a look at some two-start streamers for next week. What do you say? Whoop. There you go. All right. These are 5 two-start streamers for week 11 that I have identified as players that I would feel comfortable adding to my squad. Kyle Gibson can be hit or miss, I know, and he doesn't strike people out. We get that. But if you're just looking for wins, you're trying to maybe keep your ratios, reasonable. I mean, let's keep it real. Kyle Gibson is not Tyler Wells. Tyler Wells, his teammate in Baltimore, is the master. I love Tyler Wells. This guy is so underappreciated. Yes, some of the peripherals look like, oh, he's getting a little bit lucky. But I'm telling you, when it comes to keeping your whip down, and we're all this season with so many new rookie pitchers who've come up to the majors. You have the Miller trio, and of course, you have Brian Wu today. That didn't go very well, right? So in a season like this, where you're trying to try out the latest rookie call-up because you're that desperate to help your ratios in a head-to-head showdown each week, Tyler Wells has been there for you. I love Tyler Wells. But he's not a two-start pitcher this coming week. Kyle Gibson, his teammate, is. So I'm going to recommend Kyle Gibson. I don't feel great about it. I'll be honest. I don't feel great about Kyle Gibson being the offer here. But, you take what you can get with two-star streamers. I'm giving you guys that should be available to pick up, not guys that are already rostered, because that does you no good. You're already going to start those guys. Let's take a look at some other players. Braxton Garrett of the Marlins. Love Braxton Garrett. I really, really think he's being misjudged because He had a huge blow-up start about a month or so ago that really wrecked his numbers, makes his stat line look ugly. But the dude has been on a roll lately. And you want to be in business with Braxton Garrett this week. I think that's a safe bet for all y'all out there. And truthfully, the clock could be ticking on Braxton Garrett because Trevor Rogers, who I'm going to mention later in this little show we're doing here, could be on the mend, it could be returning. And what happens to Braxton Garrett, right? That's what I think a lot of people want to know. But lately, Braxton Garrett has been pitching well. He struck out 7 in his last outing in a 2-1 victory over the Padres. He did not get the win, but he still pitched really, really well. And over his last 4 starts, he's really been excellent. Just really, really consistent. So, Braxton Garrett is an excellent choice, especially with that matchup this week. 2-star pitcher Braxton Garrett probably might be my favorite of these 5 that I'm offering you here because I trust Garrett's stuff and he can get more Ks for you. And I don't expect him to be more available like he is right now for much longer. I don't, because of his ability to strike players out. But again, we got to see what happens with this Marlins rotation. I mean, last I checked, Yuri Perez is pitching today, the 20-year-old phenom for the Marlins, who really seemed to learn a lot from Sandy Alcantara during the offseason. And actually, supposedly Sandy Alcantara picked him up from the airport when he got the call to the big leagues this year, which is awesome. But the best of Sandy has rubbed off on Yuri Perez, but it hasn't rubbed off on Sandy, which is a real big bummer for me because I love Sandy Alcantara, and I really thought it wasn't a fluke what he did last year. Hey, it's not too late, though. First 2 months of the season do not define the last 4. Remember that. That's an important piece of information. So the question will be, how much longer will Braxton Garrett be in that Miami rotation? I think he's on the chopping block there. I really do. But they do need lefties, so we'll see how that plays out. All right, other guys. Tommy Henry of the Diamondbacks, who is not a guy who strikes people out. He's been really good lately. He's been pitching outstanding. So I had to recommend Tommy Henry in his 2-start, 2-stepper for the coming week here in fantasy baseball, week 11. I don't know how it's happened, but he struck out 7 over 7 innings in his last outing. That was against the Rockies at home. So remember, that's the Rockies who are terrible on the road. They only benefit from Coors. That's pretty much the only time you can expect some decent offensive numbers from the Rockies. But even besides that, he hasn't been awful over his last 3 outings. So he's had 2 wins in his last 3 appearances, and he's not terrible. And he's got Washington and Detroit. And that doesn't freak me out. That's not a scary situation for me. So I'm willing to recommend Tommy Henry. Again, not a guy that would probably roster regularly, but Siri, why are you talking to me, Siri? Quiet. I'm doing a show, Siri. Siri's talking to me over here. What's your deal? She's so needy. But Tommy Henry is worth it. Check it out. And then the last 2 guys I'll mention here real quick. Alex Faedo of my bozo Detroit Tigers, who actually aren't that bozo this year. And Johan Oviedo, who is not as outstanding as he was to start the year, but I still like the matchups enough that I'm willing to recommend Oviedo because he's got the Oakland A's at home. That's a nice place to be. And that's pretty much it. Other than that, I'm not really too excited about it, but I wanted to give you 5 pitchers I could recommend as 2-steppers this week, and there you go. So there's some 2-step pitchers, 2-start weeks next week in week 11 for fantasy baseball. I'm Michael Govier. You're live here with me. Jump in the live chat. You got any questions or comments about anything I'm talking about here? You can use that to your benefit. And follow me on Twitter, MJ Govier. That's fun, too. You can DM me. We can talk about anything. What's on your mind? What do you want to talk about? We talk about fantasy baseball. We can talk about anything. I'd prefer to talk about fantasy baseball because right now, this is the best time of year for fantasy baseball. I'm feeling the funk on a nasty dunk. I really am, truly and wholeheartedly. Okay, how about some hitters for week 11? Now, I want to recommend some guys that should be available who are playing well enough that they're worth adding. And I wanted to give you some variety at some different positions, although I did give you 2 third basemen on here, as you see. Josh Donaldson, double dog day from the old man. How about that? Josh Donaldson, alive and well again after all these years? I mean, that's impressive. It's really impressive to see him have 2 homers in his return from the IL on the road in LA. I mean, that's hot stuff. You love seeing that. So Donaldson's worth a pickup. I thought he was pretty toast, but you at least got to give him a shot now when he shows that type of power. Could be a fluke, and he maybe doesn't hit home run for a while. I mean, I'm willing to admit that freely. We know how baseball is. Guy has a great game that could show nothing for 2 weeks. Plus, Donaldson's just had so many injury problems. I mean, how can you honestly trust Josh Donaldson at this point? I don't think there's a lot of data to support that at his age. And the other thing is, too, how often will Donaldson play, right? Do they trust him to play all week long, or will he be a guy who plays 4 days a week because they don't want him to get hurt and they think Donaldson could be a useful veteran bat in the playoffs? Playoffs, think about that. These are things we got to think about, folks. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing the show. I'm trying to think of the stuff that maybe we really need to consider if we want to win our fantasy baseball leagues. And who the hell don't? Who the hell don't? And Nolan Jones, Coors, all week long in week 11 for Nolan Jones. So that's a no-brainer. You want to be in bed with the Rockies this week because they're at home, and it's June, and the ball's going to be flying out in the Rockies. I put Joey Weimer on here, and I can't believe I did that because I am so anti-Joey Weimer. I really am. I am so against Weimer. When he came up, I was like, no, not interested. This guy is just too much of a whiffer. This guy whiffs way too much. Weimer's a whiffer. Weimer's whiffers? Whiffing with Weimer? Well, that's what happens a lot of the time. But stole 4 bags recently over the last week. That's something. If you need steals, Joey Weimer could be a pickup. And the schedule looks a little bit more favorable this week for the Brewers. Once again, in Vlad Sedler's Trust the Gut weekly fab article, he talks about that and how Milwaukee has a really nice schedule. I think, a little secret here, a little freebie. I think Vlad recommended Bryce Terang even just as a cheap ad because the schedule's so nice, even though Terang's been so cold. So that's just an example of how Vlad's article is so incredibly useful for all fantasy baseball managers. But Joey Weimer's got some speed for you, and if you need speed, I get it. So take a plunge. I see we got some viewers here right now. If you guys want to jump in the live chat, if you have any questions about the week to come, player ads, player drops, trades, hit me up while I'm here. I'm only going to be here for a few more minutes. Good to have you aboard here right on the FTN Network YouTube channel. While you're here, smash that like button and subscribe. And then I wanted to add Michael Massey and Mark Kanya. Now, Michael Massey had such a terrible start to this year, but he's really turning it up lately. He's showing some pop, and I know he's still sitting against lefties. He's sitting, I think, today because Austin Gomber was on the mound. But, if you're looking for a middle infielder who's going to play most of the time and could get on base and crank some dongs, and maybe steal you a bag, Michael Massey's a fine choice because the worst of his season is finally over. So now you want to take advantage of Michael Massey and get the best part of his season while he's still hot. Massey's hot. And then Mark Kanya had a good week. He had some home runs. It looked like fun. That's hit or miss. I'm not super excited about jumping on Mark Kanya, but I wanted to recommend him. And the last guy here is Heimer Candelario, a former Tiger who's hitting the baseball right now. He's making contact, and he's a worthwhile ad. If you need somebody as a corner infield spot or a third baseman, and depending on your league size, Heimer Candelario right now is definitely an ad in 15-teamers and 14-teamers. 12-teamers, maybe I'd be a little more suspect of that. Plus, I'm from Detroit, from Metro Detroit. Know these Tigers a long, long time. Go Tigers. And Heimer Candelario I remember there was a lot of excitement when the Tigers traded for Candelario from the Cubbies, but didn't really pan out. It did not pan out. And I'm really not a fan of Candelario being a consistent batter who can offer you, definitely doesn't offer enough power. He never has, especially for a corner infielder. But when he's hot, he's right. And Heimer Candelario's been good right now. He's making contact and he's cranking base hits. And there's no shift anymore. Maybe that's benefited him. Maybe it hasn't. I'd have to look under the hood on Candelario. But the bottom line is this. He's worth an ad. I just don't trust him rest of the season. But when a guy's hot, or if a guy's getting on base, you got to ride it while you can. So take advantage of it. And that's why I recommended him as a hitter to add who should probably be available. He was, I think, only rostered in less than 30% of Yahoo leagues. So he's widely available all across fantasy baseball. All right. That's 2 down. I got one more thing for you here on the Fantasy Baseball Breakdown, the Fantasy Baseball Weekly Michael Govier analysis show. I don't know what we're calling it, but I do know we're here to help, and I can help you with your team. But the last thing I got for you today, Secret Stash. Remember Conan O'Brien's Secrets? Conan O'Brien, Secrets. Remember that? They'd have Patrick Stewart on. Willie Nelson was on once. There was a whole bunch of them. Harrison Ford. Oh, those are so funny. I love those. That's what I think of when I say Secret Stash. But this Secret Stash is about some players that you could add now and hopefully get a return on in the maybe, next couple of weeks at the latest, maybe sooner. So let's take a look at the list here, and you guys can be judges for yourselves. Tarek Skubal, my Tigers, he's on the mend. Probably won't see him. Maybe we'll see him at the end of the month. Maybe. That's not a guarantee. But Skubal is that good, though. He is a talented pitcher. Even if Skubal and Casey Mize and all those Tigers pitchers that were first part of this formidable trio and Matt Manning, like, oh man, they're the future of the Tigers. I know they got overhyped a little bit, but Tarek Skubal is still a darn good pitcher and someone that you want to be in business with. And he's going to be starting his rehab assignment on Sunday over in West Michigan with the Whitecaps. So it's time to get in business with Tarek Skubal, I say. I added him in one league this past week because I was saying, well, I got an IL spot. I'm definitely going to add him. And he was on the waiver wire. It was an easy call for me. And then Alex Reyes. Remember Alex Reyes? Woo! Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Alex Reyes was an all-star reliever for the St. Louis Cardinals. Time flies by. A lot of players get hurt. Seasons fly by. Weeks fly by. We forget. And Alex Reyes becomes a distant memory. But he always tantalized everyone. I mean, I can't think of a fantasy baseball player who's not familiar or at least wanted to get in bed with Alex Reyes. I mean, he was so tantalizing, such firepower. He threw gas, and he looked like such a stud. But, it's a classic story. Flew too close to the sun, that type of deal. Threw too hard. Body couldn't withstand the pressure. And we only really got one good season out of Alex Reyes. That's it, one. That's all we got. It's unfortunate. But good news for you, despite his unfortunate career, maybe he looks back and says, man, I wish I would have got more out of my career. I'm Alex Reyes. I should have been an all-star every year. But he could be coming back sooner than later for the Dodgers. And I got to tell you, there's a part of me that sees Alex Reyes as still being the closer for this team this year. It'll almost be like the Dodgers made a trade deadline acquisition. That's what it'll be like. Like Alex Reyes comes back, maybe. I mean, I haven't heard much. There's not been a lot of rumblings about Alex Reyes returning at all. So I have to be fair, straight up with you about that. But the guy is talented. The Dodgers still have kind of an opening there. I know they got Bruce DeGratterall and Evan Phillips. There's been all kinds of people that have closed games for the Dodgers this year. But I still get a feeling if Reyes can come back and get back to the MLB level, he could be the closer for the Dodgers. And that would be a great spot. You'd want to have the closer for the Dodgers, especially if he was a consistent guy. Dodgers win a lot of games, and there's a lot of opportunities for saves. At the very least, saves hold league. So I'm thinking about it now. Yes, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself here because we haven't heard much about Alex Reyes, but I wanted to get it on your mind now. It's time to start thinking about, is he going to start gearing up? Because it's been over a year since he had his shoulder surgery. So I wanted to make that point. It was last May, 2022. He should be about ready to ramp up. And the Dodgers are worth it. They are. All right, other players on the secret stash. Joey Votto. He's going to be back soon with the Reds, and it's going to be really interesting to see how they put Votto into play here. He's an old veteran, old man Votto, but they got so much young talent now. Spencer Steer is amazing. Spencer Steer stole a bag today. I love Spencer Steer. I'm like the biggest Spencer Steer fan ever. Truly, I'm happy to be the president of the Spencer Steer fan club. I love that dude. He just knew how to play the game right away. He's got an eye. He's got that classic batter's eye. Got on base at the top of the lineup. He was in the upper third of this lineup for the Cincinnati Reds since day one. It's really impressive. And I know the Reds had nothing to play for, so you feel like, oh, well, there was no pressure. Spencer Steer had nothing to fear. Wrong. Baseball is hard. You know that. You know that. I know that. That's why it's impressive to see what Spencer Steer has done right away. So how will Joey Votto fit into that situation? You got Nick Senzel there. Of course, Matt McLean's been awesome, too. He's a shortstop. And everybody's talking about Ellie De La Cruz. I could have put Ellie De La Cruz on this secret stash list, but everyone's aware of Ellie De La Cruz. Every day on Twitter, someone's posting, he was late for practice today. He might be getting the call. Like all these ridiculous over-the-top assumptions that Ellie De La Cruz is coming up today. Today's the day. They'll take any little nugget they can get, but eventually Ellie De La Cruz will be up. And again, I want to know, how will the Reds use Joey Votto? They want his presence, right? Some people say Votto's not a good guy. I love Joey Votto. I think he's always been very honest. And if he's a clubhouse guy that I think he is, the Reds are going to want a veteran presence like Votto to help these youngsters come along. But that doesn't mean Votto's going to play every day. I mean, look at my Bozo Tigers. They're settled with that awful, terrible contract that Miguel Cabrera anchors down this team with for this final year. He doesn't play very much, but he's there every day, right? So maybe there's a similarity there between Votto and Cabrera, although I actually think Votto can actually offer more production than Cabrera can. I think Votto can still hit for power. Cabrera is toast. He's a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. Maybe one of the greatest, maybe the greatest Tiger ever, Al Kaline. I don't know, Ty Cobb. But, you know, time has come for Miguel Cabrera. It's time to say goodbye. All right, and then the other dudes, Trevor Rogers, who's starting rehab now, and hopefully he's back by the end of June at the latest. Trevor Rogers should be back sooner than later, and this is why I brought up earlier in the show about Braxton Garrett. What's the story there? Is it going to be a problem? Is he going to be ousted? Is Trevor Rogers going to be outside looking in on this rotation? I mean, that seems pretty ridiculous, right? So I'm pro Trevor Rogers. I love Trevor Rogers coming into the year. It sucks that he got hurt. He was starting to figure it out. I think after the first couple starts were so-so. Then he got hurt with the biceps issue. And now here we are. But I'm pro Trevor Rogers. I think the Marlins are pro Trevor Rogers, and they want his left-handed arm in the rotation. So I don't think Rogers is on the outside looking in at this Miami rotation. And as, you know, Yuri Perez is young. If they want to keep Yuri around, here it comes. You reading my mind? The dreaded six-man rotation could be in play. These are just truths that I speak to you. Okay? Okay. And then Jose Quintana. It's going to be a minute before he gets back with the Mets, but they could definitely use more pitching. You can always use more pitching. And Jose will be working his way back to you, babe, real soon. He's been throwing live batting practice, but we're still a bit away from Jose Quintana joining the Mets again. He's got to go on a rehab assignment. That one could be July. We could still be looking at July before Jose Quintana returns. But keep your eyes on this. That's why I share it with you. I want you guys to be aware. That's my job. Raising awareness. You make the final decisions. At the end of the day, you guys are all the GMs, the owners, the executive vice presidents of your fantasy squads. And I'm just your consigliere. I'm the assistant. I'm the Robert Duvall to the Godfather. I come in and I advise, and then you guys do what you got to do, right? I think that makes sense. All right, so thanks so much for being here. I'm Michael Govier. Follow me on Twitter, MJ Govier, if you want more. And, of course, FTNFantasy.com. I'm telling you, my article's free on Tuesdays. We have some free articles, but the really, really good stuff beyond my free stuff every Tuesday is Vlad Sedler. Eric Cross, Matty Davis is grinding. We got a hitting planner. We got pitching primer. We got everything you want. It's totally worth it. Go to FTNFantasy.com. Look for more and see where you fit in. I'm telling you, it's good stuff. We want to help you win. We do. We're about winning. It matters. And you get access to the Discord if you sign up for a subscription. And that's a real big bonus because we get to talk directly one-on-one in the Discord about everything related to your fantasy squad. It's good times, I tell you. Good times, noodle salad. All right. Like button. Subscribe. FTN Network YouTube channel. I'm Michael Govier. Thanks for watching the show. If you weren't here live and you're watching the video after the fact, drop a comment on the video and I'll pop back in and I'll try to answer your questions if you have questions heading in to week 11 of the fantasy baseball season. It's been a pleasure. Love doing the show. Thanks for giving me your time. And until next time, I'm Michael Govier for FTN Network